They're all in and they're off and racing. Americane, the favourite, still deep on the outside. Americane trying to get between runners, but Manigar's off and gone at the 200. He's about 3 lengths in front. Drunken Sailor ran to second, then Americane is plugging on, followed further back by Southern Speed, but Manigar hasn't moved. He turned him around. Manigar races away, and Manigar beat Americane.
The Group 1 BMW Stakes, always one of the big highlights on Slipper Day, run over 2,400 metres. This year, a small but quality field lining up.
And made very interesting with 5.5 Star, the 3-year-old entering and taking on gallopers that have come from all over the world.
Yeah, it's a United Nations there. It was interesting looking at that opening footage of last year's race, which was very tempo-related. And this year's race is probably going to be very tempo-related as well. 5.5 Star looks to dominate the pace here. There are no other horses that go forward to lead, and he's already the favourite before you give him that. So it's going to be very tough for anything to beat 5.5 Star here.
Chris Waller, Rosehill-based trainer, has Foreteller running, and he, of course, won the Group 1 Ranvet Stakes last start, so he can't be denied a good chance again tomorrow.
It was very strong at the back end of 2,000 metres. You can see 5.5 Star in front. Very solid tempo set by Peter Roble. We'll hear from Anthony Cummings and get his thoughts on the ride very soon. But here it looks like 5.5 Star might win. Then it's getting tired, drifting off the track.
Yeah, I think he was very good here the last bit for Teller. As we'll see later, I've put him in as the second choice. I mean, he's untried beyond 2,000 metres, so I guess there's a question mark there. But I'm a great believer in not hanging horses for things that they haven't done. He's never failed beyond 2,000 metres. He's very strong at the end there, as you said. He was drawing away from the remainder of the field. Now, he did get a perfect run through the race there. He's not drawn to get the perfect run in this race. However, the wet track might help him there because they do tend to spread out. Maybe it'll be a case of Jim Cassidy finding that inside where everyone comes away from the rail. He does it so often at Rosehill. And the horse being able to get a miracle run through and put him in a spot to be a threat again. I think that's the key to his race. On a dry track, I think he was in a bit of trouble, but on a wet track, they move out of the way a little bit. He gets through, he gets to chase. Still 5.5 Star the horse to beat, but Foreteller, he's always looked like being a Group 1 horse ever since Chris Waller took him over.
He loves an inside run, Jim Cassidy, doesn't he? Even sort of Caulfield Cup diatribe, I think he blew the whistle and came to the rail. Yeah.
Well, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, wasn't it, for 5.5 Star last start against the big boys. Let's find out how he's come through the run.
Yeah, really pleased. I mean, he's had a good preparation leading into it. The bit of conjecture last week about the Guineas, but I think at the end of the day we've gone the right way. You know, his last 2 or 3 gallops have been excellent. Strong gallop this morning, finished off really well, and you know, goes into the race in perfect condition for that 1.5 miles.
What did you make of his last start effort in the Ranvet?
Oh, I thought it was really good. You know, he got sort of worked fairly hard out of the gates, you know, by a couple of the other horses in the race. And that took a little bit away from his finish. I think the horse sort of surprised Peter as quickly as he went, you know, when he asked him to extend at around about the sort of 700 mark. And then sort of came off his track down the running. So, you know, a few things went wrong for him to run second, and I'm hopeful that, you know, none of those sorts of things happen this time and he gets a clean run through and changes the result.
Was he just feeling a little weary towards the end, or did he get a bit lost out there when he kind of went off the track a little?
Oh, I think he's probably just getting a little bit tired. You know, he had been asked to do quite a lot, and in the end that told, and they ran very fast time overall. So, and he made the time himself. So, you know, all those things you've got to pay for all of that, and he did in the finish by running second.
He's going to benefit a lot from that experience, 5.5 Star, isn't he?
He is, and I mean, he's a horse, he keeps running second, but he keeps running great races. And I think this is his opportunity to be the dominant horse. I think some of the horses chasing there, they can't go any better than that. They're just, you know, even Malucky Day, who followed Foreteller through and eventually wound up in third, that's probably the best he's gone in a long time. And he needs to improve on that to be a threat in the race. So I think 5.5 Star has got the measure of most of those horses there, I think.
He's a horse that can catch you as well, my lucky day, when he flashes on over distances that you believe are too short, and you think, oh, I'll get on him next out when he goes up in distance, but he hasn't won in 2.5 years or something.
Yeah, that's right. It's a long time ago, his really good form.
Yeah, and then everyone sort of climbing on him to sort of win a Melbourne Cup. But I suppose Silent Achiever was sort of peaking on her run. She has to find some improvement. You look at a horse like Niwat, maybe he will be better on sort of with heavy track conditions.
He's better on wet ground, but I still doubt that he's good enough. You know, people might look at the wet track form of 5.5 Star and say, well, you know, he hasn't won in 4 goes at it, but he was placed on a heavy track as a 2-year-old, and those wet track runs for him were all in the early part of his career when he was still racing at 1,200 metres and 1,400 metres. I mean, that really hasn't been his caper. He's an out-and-out stayer.
Horse that may map well, Joe, is Hathras, a German import that's strung together 2 wins in a row. Again, it's not easy to tell where his level will be. How do you assess a horse like him who's sort of seems quite well found at around $7 in Australia?
Yeah, I think he is well found at that price. I mean, I believe he's not going to look for the lead. He's going to posse up fairly handy first 3 or 4, but isn't interested in leading. Gatewood isn't interested in leading, according to the trainer. And you know, Hathras is a horse on the improve. We'll probably see in this race where he's going, but his last start win, he was 1 to 4 in a rubbish field. I mean, it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, 3 other runners, I think, a couple of maybe a win or 2, the second place horse or something like that. Yeah, quite a different level of class.
Well, the proven Class 3-year-old, he's 5.5 Star, and he's my top selection, the Derby winner of last year in Melbourne, to beat Foreteller after his Ram Vet win, and Sangster I've put in as my 3rd place getter.
Well, you can put a carbon in for me, Joe, because I'm 5.5 Star, Foreteller and Sangster. Sangster maybe coming back from 2 miles to the 2,000 metres last time, I think might have been against him. He'd had a trip across the Tasman in between. I'm prepared to give him a bye there and say his previous form in New Zealand was outstanding.
Yeah, I think he was racing as well as he had
ever.
Yeah, exactly. He sort of won the VRC Derby, fell off a cliff in terms of form, and sort of come back this season. He's owned by a group of people, one of whom is by the name of Matthew Fenwick, who lives in Hong Kong, a New Zealander who lives in Hong Kong. I don't know whether he's gone to Sydney. I think he probably should, given how much the horse has won for him. So, but all the best to the team anyway. I've left him out, so I've lost a friend and a beer, I think.
Gay Waterhouse, the Australian Queen of the Turf, is aiming for her 3rd win in the race tomorrow, named the Queen of the Turf with More Joyous. This horse, having won the race the past 2 years consecutively, she's drawn in Gate 1. Nashra Willa, her regular rider, aboard. Secret Admirer also lining up. Appearance, and we've got There's Only One, Shannara and Cathay Lady. High-class field of mares here.
Yeah, plenty of mares have won Group 1 races, had Group 1 experience, but no more so than More Joyous. I suppose there's been a lot of talk in Australia about More Joyous, and this is her run behind Piero in the Canterbury Stakes. How she'll go on a heavy track, but I'd suggest that Connections probably won't start her if it gets really heavy, would they? And you'd take the lead on that? Or would you be...
I think, well, her record on slow tracks is outstanding.
Yeah.
The 2 times she's been beaten on heavy tracks, she was up against it in a Doncaster with a big weight, and the other time she was forced to work early in a Golden Slipper, and she slipped around, didn't handle the ground under. You know, a pressure run throughout the race, going forward, leading. I can't really think you can assess her on that. When she's been comfortable, when she's been able to be ridden comfortably. She's been very good in slow ground, and I can't put a pen through her on the basis of the track. Yeah,
you take the lead if she starts, then you've got to... she's got to be the one to beat if she doesn't start.
Well, I think they'd be inclined to start. I mean, she's hard fit. Let's face it, she's not getting any younger. Who knows, maybe this will be her last campaign. But she's still the class edge in this race. She's going to sit behind what looks just an average kind of a pace. Most of these mares can't get anywhere near her.
But her young stablemate did last start. In fact, he went right past her, Piero, in the Canterbury Stakes. It's very rare that More Joyous is out of the winner's circle. Perhaps tomorrow she'll bounce back in the race she's made her own.
She's lovely. She's really good. She's a mare that's always happy in herself. It doesn't do much, you know. She's done everything. She's fit now and just shooting the breeze.
And I think she's aiming for a third win in the race, so quite remarkable.
Absolutely, it is remarkable. She should be very hard to beat.
Okay, of course, her biggest fan.
Yeah.
She will be hard to beat. But what about some of the others lining up? Appearance, a horse coming off a last start win?
Yes, I can't knock Appearance. I think she's probably third choice in the race. She's been a little bit underrated, I guess. She's been long odds in both of the Group 1 races that she's won, but she comes back 2 weeks later, same place, same distance. And even though she hasn't got the record of More Joyous, she's here and now and she's racing well. And also Red Tracer, I think she commands a lot of respect. She's one who's unbeaten, I think, on any kind of wet track. So she was in the finish there with Appearance, and she must be respected as well.
Appearance, Red Tracer and also Streamer, there are slight weight turnarounds against Appearance and in favour of Red Tracer and Streamer. Like, how significant is that compared to the form that they're actually running in?
I think a more significant thing for Streamer is how the race maps out. If you look at the start of the Coolmore, she was one of the first to jump, but she was drawn very wide. Jockey elected to go all the way back. Made it a very difficult task. I think if she begins the same way in this, she could be up in the first 4 or 5 where she was in the good race that she won in Melbourne. And I think she might be a little more competitive from there. Having said that, again, I'm coming back to the point earlier that some of the Oaks form from every season doesn't really play out once they go into open age racing. And I just don't know whether Streamer's quite up to these first couple.
Well, it has been a while since she's been in the winner's circle, October last year. Streamer to be ridden tomorrow, as always, by Hugh Bowman, and he's a huge rap for the filly.
Yeah, she continues to improve as the preparation goes. I wouldn't say she was an eye-catcher in the Coolmore, but I was very, very happy with her. Rode her work 2 on Tuesday morning, and she's come on since then, and Guy Walter has a real knack of being able to produce these horses on the day that counts, and I guarantee she'll be running the race of her life this Saturday.
The Guy Walter with a real stronghold in the race, 2 very talented horses.
There's a filly in the Coolmore that lined up, or a mare called Steps in Time, that's at a very strong tempo that isn't in this race. So that's, you spoke a little bit about the pace. That's going to affect this significantly, isn't it?
Oh, I think so. I mean, the pace to me looks like the outside of Cathay Lady going forward on the inside. Pear Tart and More Joyous will be close behind her. But with the 3 going forward on the outside might make up for Steps in Time's absence. Red Tracer will race forward to be handy, Streamer the same, and possibly Spirit Song, the mare from Melbourne. They'll all want to try and overcome that draw in the early stages and get over into a position. But it won't probably be as strongly run as the Coolmore.
More Joyous, I suppose, on top for all. Second and third is the question.
You'd be a game man to tip against her, wouldn't you? We've all put her on top, More Joyous. I've included Appearance there as my second selection, with the stablemate Streamer as well. Look for her to continue to improve.
I can't improve on More Joyous. She's probably only going to be the right price, but the right price is pretty short. More Joyous, Red Tracer, Appearance. Probably if I had to go again after that, I'd probably say Streamer, but I think those 3 dominate.
Yeah, and I'm happy to put Streamer in there for second and maybe add some value into Quinella and Quinella Place plays. Around $16, $17. I'm surprised that hasn't really been much money for her, given that some of her best runs have been on rain-affected tracks as well. So that's a little bit of concern. I would prefer to have seen a little bit more money for Streamer.
One thing we know is it will be a very popular victory if More Joyous wins the Queen of the Turf tomorrow. She's won the race for the past 2 years straight.
And then further back, Sky Rush, of course, I Can, and Lights of Heaven sticking to the fence. Red Tracer is the leader as they turn for home. In advance of King's Rose, and then More Joyous starting to come down the outside with a strong run. He turns her loose now, More Joyous. She rushes up and hits the lead. Took over from King's Rose and then Red Tracer. Miss Keepsake and Hurdle Myrtle are running races, but More Joyous strides away at the 100. She's too good for them.